Well, hello everybody and welcome to Chef's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to be making Tottenham Cake. This is a tray bake which was originally created in the 1800s by a guy called Henry Chalkley. He was a Quaker who created this sweet treat which could be cut into small pieces for the children of Tottenham, basically. And it's a sponge cake flavoured with a bit of vanilla and a little bit of orange zest, and then with a pink soft icing on the top, which was originally made with the fruit from mulberry bushes or mulberry trees, but these days we tend to use raspberries. So it's actually quite simple. We start off by preheating our oven to 180 Celsius, that's 160 Celsius with a fan, 350 Fahrenheit, and we grease and line an 8 by 12 inch cake tin. Well, mine is actually slightly larger than that, is about 8.5 by 12 I think, but it means the cake will be slightly less tall, but it will still work quite well. And I should say that I got this recipe from the Sainsbury's magazine, and they adapted it from a recipe from a person called Leah Hislop. So, and I'll put a link to the Sainsbury's magazine recipe in my blog as well. So I'll go on to the ingredients, and for this I have 225 grams, which is 2 sticks of softened unsalted butter. I have 225 grams, which is 1 cup plus 2 tablespoons of caster sugar. 4 medium eggs, beaten, that would be large in the USA. 5 millilitres, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. I have the zest from half an orange. I have 300 grams of self-raising flour. And that's 2 cups based on scooping packed flour into a 250 millilitre cup. Now if you don't have self-raising flour, you could use 300 grams of plain flour and add into it 3 teaspoons of baking powder, which would be 12 grams, and sift it through to make sure it gets thoroughly mixed. In addition to my self-raising flour, I have 8 grams, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and I have 45 millilitres, 3 tablespoons of milk. And then for the topping, I have 300 grams, which is 2 1/3 cups of icing sugar, 125 grams, 1 cup of raspberries, and I'm using frozen raspberries here, and that will be fine. We're just going to heat them basically and then push them through a sieve, because we only want the juice of the raspberries. And I have 14 grams, 2 tablespoons of desiccated coconut. So the first thing we have to do is to cream the butter and the sugar together. And I'm going to cream the butter and the sugar with my hand mixer. You could do it by hand, you can do the whole thing by hand if you want. And the temperature in my kitchen today is excessively warm. We're in the middle of a heat wave here in the UK. So I'm just going to cream those until they're fully combined and nice and fluffy. That's good like that. So then I'm going to add the egg, and I'm going to mix it in a little bit at a time until it's all fully combined. So that's good, like that. The eggs are fully combined now. So I'm also going to add in my vanilla extract and give that a quick mix around as well. So that's good like that. So then I'm going to fold in my flour, and I have mixed my baking powder into my self-raising flour, but I'm also going to sift that onto the mixture. That's good, like that, and I'm going to fold that in using a metal spoon. And that looks quite good. So then I'm going to add my milk, and this is going to loosen the batter up. I've also folded in my orange zest, which I could have mixed in with the vanilla extract had I thought about it. So then I'm going to put that into my prepared cake tin. And I'm going to spread that around to level it across the tin. And that's fairly level, that's good enough. That will level off as it goes into the oven. So I'm going to put that into the oven, and I'm going to bake it for between 30 and 35 minutes until it rises and it feels springy to the touch. Then I'll take it out and allow it to cool down completely in the cake tin. Then I'll come back and we'll go on to the next stage. I baked my cake for 35 minutes and I've allowed it to just about cool down, and I've taken it out of the tin, and this is what it looks like. Now I've left the paper on because when I put the icing on I can actually hold the paper up so that it doesn't go all over the sides. But you can take the paper off if you want to. So the next thing I'm going to do is to make the icing, and for that I'm going to take my raspberries and I'm going to put them into a saucepan, and I'm just going to heat those up, and with a little drop of water, maybe a tablespoon of water, 2 tablespoons maybe, and I'm going to let them boil until they completely break down. Then I'm going to pass them through a sieve. So I put some water in, and I will heat those on the stove. You don't need to see that. That's simply going to bring them to the boil and allow them to simmer away until they've broken down, and then I'll come back and we'll put them through a sieve. So I have boiled my raspberries, and I'm going to pour them into a sieve, and I'll use the back of a spoon just to push them through the sieve, keeping the any flesh and seeds out of the mixture. And then I'm going to use about 5 tablespoons of the juice to add into my icing sugar to make the icing. Now, if you make the icing too runny, you can thicken it more with extra icing sugar, and if it's too thick, you can loosen it with more liquid. So I think that's probably good enough as it is. So I'm just going to take my icing sugar and I'm going to put in I'll start off with 4 tablespoons, and I'll just use a knife to mix that around to start with. And I'll add a little drop more, a teaspoon at a time. And you can whisk this if you want to make it smooth. I'm not going to bother. If there's a couple of little lumps of sugar in it, it's not going to matter. So then I'm going to put the icing onto the cake, and I'm going to spread it all over the surface. So that's spread well enough, because then I'm going to take my coconut and I'm going to sprinkle it over the top. Like that, and then I'm going to just tap it down. Just like that. And I'm going to leave that to set. And so when the icing has set that little bit firmer, I will cut it and I'll come back and show you how it looks on the inside, and we'll have a taste of it. I've allowed the Tottenham cake to cool down, and I've cut it into pieces, and I've cut it into some bars and some squares, so you can make whatever size you want. And I should say you can eat this as a cake, or you can serve it as a dessert with custard or something like that, which I think I would quite enjoy. So this is what it looks like as I've cut it, and so these are a good size. These are small ones, which are just nice for snacking on. So I'll have a taste of one that I've put to this side here. The cake is lovely and soft, very tasty. I can taste the vanilla. I can actually taste just the slightest hint of that orange as well. And then the sweetness of the icing with the raspberry is very, very good. It's a very simple recipe to make, and it doesn't actually take very long. So I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you have, please give me the thumbs up below the video and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for the recipe, and I'll put a link below the video as well. And I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.